So, as we continue our conversation about the ways in which artificial intelligence, AI, are going to shape all of our worlds, we're turning now to something that's near and dear, certainly to me, because it's storytelling, journalism, and the entertainment industry. And there's no one better to help frame how AI is going to shape storytelling than our next guest. Sree Sreenivasan is the co-founder of Digimentors, a digital media agency, and also the former chief digital officer for New York City, the Met Museum, and Columbia University, where Sree, many years ago we met.
Great to reconnect, and thank you for having me here. This is such a big topic. People are talking about it. People are worried about it. They don't necessarily exactly know what it's about. So I'm delighted to talk to you and understand more as I learn and you learn, and we're all learning together.
Well, it feels like keeping up with the changes in AI is a near daily task because it's moving so quickly. And when we talk about the entertainment industry, let's start with something that's been in the headlines, which is the Writers Guild strike. Because I think writing is perhaps the element of artificial intelligence because of ChatGPT that many people are more familiar with. What's at the heart of that tension with the WGA, the potential use of AI in writing for television and film?
I'm coming to you from LA today, right by the Grammy Museum, where you may have seen that the Academy in the Recording Arts and Sciences announced that they're going to treat AI music separately from regular music for Grammys and things like that. And of course, every event I've gone to here, they're talking specifically about AI and what it means in the entertainment business. And as you honed in, the writing business. And as we know, all communications starts with writing. Even if we're speaking, even in a radio show like this, a lot of it is unscripted, but somewhere, somebody, our producer Brian, somebody is writing down what the plan is, what the context is, what the background is. So the art of writing is so important in everything we do. And here comes a tool that says it can write faster, easier than anything that you are using now. So that gets some people super excited and gets other people super worried.
And it is a very challenging moment for people whose career is writing. The Writers Guild specifically, but also since you're coming fresh off of this conversation about the Grammys and writing music, I know as a filmmaker, often we'll talk to a composer and say something along the lines of, can you make a track that's evocative in the same way Flight of the Valkyries is? And that composer will come back with a track that is evocative and emotional in just that way. Well, you can ask that same exact question of ChatGPT.
And that's at the heart of the issue here. We're seeing the same thing with any aspect of writing, communication. And so the question is, how do we make sure that the people whose jobs rely on writing are able to take advantage of some of the features that ChatGPT and others use and offer, and then making sure that the dangers are also something we're aware of. For folks who are still not clear what all of this means, is to think about when the internet first came along. In many industries, it was people were worried what it would do to take away jobs, and it did. A lot of jobs changed, but a lot of new jobs also came along. But in terms of writing, one of the things that people say, well, it's so easy to cut and paste and copy and cheat. Of course it is. But that doesn't mean everybody does it, right? We see problems of plagiarism and other things. So I make that same comparison with ChatGPT. We're seeing in the headlines all kinds of interesting things, including a professor at University of Texas in Austin who failed half his class because he presumed they were using ChatGPT incorrectly. They were not using it. He presumed they were. And the case of the lawyer who submitted a brief with 6 precedents in there that were all made up. So the Srinivasan versus O'Neill case, which hasn't happened yet, was already on the books according to the lawyer who sent it in. The judge was smart enough to recognize these were fake, generated by ChatGPT, and the lawyer got in trouble. So it's a question of ethics, it's a question of right and wrong, but it's also a question of the ease of use that people have from this stuff as well.
And some of these things like the inaccuracies that you're bringing up have made headlines, but at the core, AI is going to transform the way in which creators create. And as you look at the coming weeks, months, 2 years, how do you think AI is going to shape media makers? And we can address it in terms of specifically journalism, or maybe expand it to storytelling more broadly. What's going to change in the business of making media?
It's already changed. I was in India in March, and one of the folks who works with a lot of folks doing social and digital media for them, he said his entire team starts everything they do inside ChatGPT, and then they refine, improve, correct, etc. So what he's saying is that it's the first step of what they're doing. It's all about making sure it's better. Don't send the raw material to the client, but work on it, get it better. So it's that first step of the kind of work that we might be doing anyway, but it's just so much faster to do it. But of course, you have to be that much more careful, because with speed comes the opportunity for mistakes, errors, and outright problems that could get you sued and things like that as well. So you have to see that. And by the way, the other conversation about entertainment and AI is the Sarah Silverman lawsuit, where she has sued the OpenAI, the company that is doing ChatGPT, saying you're taking my content and making that available and reusing it without my permission, my rights. So you're going to see a lot more of that as well. It's very early days, and we have to keep that in mind.
Well, and it's an interesting philosophical conversation, I think, in terms of creative storytelling, because I could listen to Sarah Silverman's routine and be inspired by it, and riff and sort of try to retell some of her jokes with my own spin on it. And generally, that would have been considered not stealing, but building. And there's that I can't remember who came up with the trope of that there are only 7 stories, right? Like man versus man, man versus nature, man versus himself. So like when we're getting it all down, we're all building from these building blocks. It's just that AI enables it to happen so much faster and without a human mind involved.
And therefore, what does that mean, right? So we could always have just taken her jokes and told them, but a lot of things kept you from doing it. One, because you're not that kind of person. You're not a thief. You're worried about the pushback. There are all kinds of reasons why you wouldn't do it. But now you may not even know that you're doing it. That's the danger of this. And there's the other trope, right? You give, you have 1,000 monkeys typing on a typewriter for weeks or years at a time. One of them will end up having typed Shakespeare, because there's only so much that you could.
Right. And so you don't need the 1,000 monkeys are there in AI, except it's all inside an iPad.
Yeah, exactly.
So Sree, when you think, and I know you care about the next generation of storytellers, and when you think about people who are emerging in this digital storytelling economy, what advice do you have with regard to AI for people who are of the emerging creative class? And I want to juxtapose that with the sort of advice you might have for businesses and where there might be tensions. But let's start with the emerging creative class.
Well, the first thing is the importance of training them in the ethics and guardrails and guidelines that are going to help them stay employed, because you can imagine that lawyer is not going to get a lot of work, because people are going to be so worried about trusting him. Like, if you can't trust your own lawyer, then where do you go from there? Unless Rudy Giuliani is your lawyer, and you should never trust him. So in terms of young people, first is understanding the parameters and the guidelines, and then showing them what you can do and what you cannot do. Out here, I also met a professor who teaches forensic accounting, and one of his first lessons is how to fake your financial results is one of the things he teaches. He says accountants can't detect fraud if they don't know how to commit the fraud themselves. And that was like, my mind was blown that they're actually teaching that. There was a TV show, you might remember, How to Get Away with Murder.
Right.
So a similar thing, that how to get away with financial fraud is taught by this professor to people going into accounting. I thought it was brilliant, because that means then they can be much more clever about that. So similarly, what are the things we need to teach? How do we help them understand that this is going to change the way they work for the next 30 years? And we, as the older folks, need to help them. But by the way, the older folks also need help, because we're seeing also headlines of newspapers that are saying, we'll replace journalists or some of the journalists with AI. A newspaper in Germany fired 100 people, just said, we know we can do some of these things with AI. So that's that moment we're in right now.
It's this moment of incredibly rapid transition. And according to some, that the AI in just the media and entertainment industry is expected to grow to a market value of $125 billion in the next 5 years, which is insane when we think about what that impact could be. And I think sometimes what's lost in that is we talk about AI and we just think about computers. There are people. And can you talk a little bit about how the people can touch AI beyond the ethics? Where do you see it as a tool?
Well, it's an everyday thing now already inside the Google suite of products. You can have they can help you write your emails better. For a long time, people have been using Grammarly, which is basically AI. Inside Gmail, you've seen for a long time where it'll start suggesting completion, things that you might complete a sentence or a phrase. So if you use Canva, which is the most popular of the design tools, they now have an AI button. But at the same time, I feel like we're already like oversaturated with AI. People are sticking AI into their marketing to be suddenly more attractive. We're having a bathroom done in our apartment, and I was joking, like, is there an AI toilet? Like, is that what they're going to suggest so that they can stand out in the crowd? But we are seeing kind of a hype around this. You remember with the dot-com boom in 2000 and the bust in 2000, that was a very important moment, because a lot of people said, oh, this is the end of the internet. No, the internet became a million times more important and changed our lives much more after that. So there's a startup which does something with AI for young men. They got 100 million euros or pounds or dollars investment in 4 weeks. They had started, had their name on AI, they had the AI in their name, and they got $100 million when there are so many businesses that are struggling to get investments, even though they're profitable and successful and everything else. That's that same hype cycle that you and I and others who are older will remember from 99, 2000, 2001. And that's what we're going to see here as well.
That hype cycle is a really, I think, important point, because there was a moment where, let's say, everyone needed a website. And everyone had to move all of their processes online. And if we go back to that 1999, 2000 sort of parallel that you're drawing, you have worked with and led some of, as a New Yorker, I think some of the most sacred institutions in our city, Columbia University, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and Chief Digital Officer of New York City. These are institutions that dealt with digital change, right? In 99, 2000, where there was an enormous amount of energy and pivoting, and we got to go online. What are the conversations happening at major municipalities, at these legacy institutions? Is there sort of a panic to get AI involved in everything? Or, how do you be strategic about AI if you are, the mayor of a city with a budget of $40 billion?
Yeah, or a budget of 4 million. Like, it doesn't matter. We're in this moment where this conversation's happening. Now, you have to remember that those institutions, academia, culture, cities, are some of the slowest moving and slowest to respond to change. And I know that email existed for 30 years before it became the de facto way in which conversations happen inside universities. I still remember in 1994, the dean of Columbia Journalism School, Joan Connor, announced, we're going to move from putting letters in, in those cubby holes in the
Yep.
mail room. We're going to move to email. And some of our faculty fainted. They said, what, email? How can that be? Email is not the one thing we want to use. And so like that, technology can exist, but people don't buy into it. For a long time, even places like museums did not and cities did not. But now, because there's a lot more awareness, because the technology is something you can experience on a daily basis, a lot more people are talking about it, as opposed to at the time when a piece of technology required a mainframe computer that was in some, in some closet somewhere. So as technologies become part of our daily lives, there are more opportunities for us to appreciate and be scared by what happens with AI or any of the other tools as well.
And something like email seems so simple now that it was based in communication. When it comes to AI, where does it fit into the decision making for a major institution? Is it about management? Is it about processes? Is it about customer experience, or what?
Maybe all of the above. And of course, as they say, follow the money. It comes down to money with everything. But I was just remembering that I used to teach classes such as how to use email. I used to teach classes called, about this new fangled thing called Google. People loved Alta Vista or Yahoo, and they didn't want to go to Google. They didn't want to
Juno.
try
Sree,
these.
we remember Juno.
I remember Juno. Oh my God. Juno, folks, was one of the first free emails that you could get. You got a disk, you stuck it in your computer. By the way, some people are saying, what's a disk and what do you
What's a
stick in
disk?
a computer? Like they wouldn't understand. So let's not confuse our younger viewers. But that idea, what is this affecting? So I'm in LA to teach workshops on AI, call it my non-scary guide to AI. And I'm doing this all over the country and other places as well. But all of it comes down to money and how do we make our businesses, even our nonprofits, our businesses, more efficient and more successful. But we don't want to lose the humanity there. In all the conversation about the metaverse, do you remember? It was just months ago that Facebook had decided that the metaverse is the most important thing, and people are they put in $10 billion, and other companies were all saying meta this, meta that. We have to have our own place in the metaverse, just like they did with Second Life, which was something back in the early 2000s that people jumped into. But then what happened? Facebook said, oh, sorry, that's it. It's dead. It's already dead. This thing that you and I could have had a conversation about a year ago, the same conversation would have been like, metaverse is important, metaverse is important. And then Facebook just killed it, laid off 10,000 people, but there's no humanity in the coverage of this. 10,000 people is not just 10,000 people, right? It's their families, it's their local dry cleaner. Everybody's affected by this. And in our tech conversations, we've lost the humanity, and that's part of the problem. When Elon Musk laid off 3,800 people, it was like, oh, too bad. But what does that mean for us as a society? If technology gets better, if AI can do most of our work, if it can, it's not proven yet,
Right.
Then what do we do with people that, how is there other things they can do? Can we change the way we structure our companies or even society so that there are ways in which, it shouldn't be just that then all the white collar people get 3 days a week to work and everybody else, all the blue collar folks in many jobs, which will not be affected by AI, have to be there in person. That's not fair. So how do we adjust that? How do we move people along the lines of comfort and job satisfaction and where we are as people, right? All of that stuff. Why do we work? We work for our families. We work to be relevant. It's not that people don't want to work, but they want to figure out the stuff that's changing our lives every moment, it seems.
So Sree, to cut to that pivot, right? You mentioned the pivot to the metaverse that happened 18 months ago. We both remember when every journalism company was pivoting to video, right? And there was the pivot to online that happened in the boom and bust you referenced earlier. Are we in a boom and bust moment with AI, or is there something that is more foundationally transformative about what's happening now?
Well, it depends on how we react. It's like saying the internet was in trouble in 2000. It was not. It was the business models around the internet that was in trouble. Similarly here, our lives are going to be changed, are being changed by AI right now. You know, if Katie Couric can do a colonoscopy on TV, I can tell you on the radio that I had my colonoscopy and everybody should get one if they need one. And the doctor said to me in February, thank God for AI, because the cameras are now so smart that they can interpret what he sees at the camera much better than he can. And he believes he has saved dozens of lives because he's caught things earlier than he would have 5 years ago. So AI isn't just something that you have to get involved in. It's already happening. Businesses are making decisions about you, about your credit scores, about your job prospects, like all of that's being decided. But we have to play a role, and we shouldn't just sit back passively in what we're doing.
So whether it's our doctors using AI to better maintain our health, or me figuring out how to keep my job in the AI economy, there is no one better to hear from and learn from than Sree Sreenivasan, co-founder of Digimentors, former chief digital officer of New York City. And Sree, before we let you go, where should people go besides digimentors.group? Where should they go to hear from you, learn from you, benefit from your insights on a day-to-day? Threads, Twitter, Instagram, what is it?
We need one site to rule them all, right? To find everything. And so
and in the darkness, bind them.
Yeah, I mean, I still recommend LinkedIn. I think all of us, LinkedIn is the most underappreciated of all the platforms. And if you can spell my name, which is not easy, you can find me. It's Sree, and my last name is Sreenivasan, Sreenivasan, but I'm at Sree on Twitter, at SreeNet on Instagram, and my Substack, my newsletter, where I write about a lot of these issues. I'd love to see some of you folks there. But mainly, as I'm doing my tour and I'm setting it up, if anyone is interested in a virtual or in-person workshop to try to figure this stuff out, or an opportunity to talk to your folks about your businesses, I would love that. My email's so easy, sree@sree.net, SREE@SREE.net. Don't forget, email still counts. In
Still
a
counts.
world, email still counts.
Well, I'll send my thank you note to your inbox at sree@sree.net. Sree Sreenivasan, thank you so much for your time and your insights, and we hope to have you back on the show soon.
Thank you and good luck.